Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Thomas Spark. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to make a password manager tier list. I was thinking, why don't I make one of these? I've probably made one before, right? But I haven't probably made one in a while. There's been some new developments in password managers and so on. So today I'm going to take a look at that. Are you guys ever worried about getting doxxed? I know I am. That's why I use a service called Incogni. Now, I've reviewed almost all the major data broker removal tools, and I found that this one is the best. It's the cheapest, and it also has a really good family plan as well. If you use my link in the description down below, you should be able to get 50% off Incogni. I have not been sponsored by Incogni for some time, but they are one of my top affiliates, and they're one of my favorite products here on the channel because they prevent it so you don't get doxxed. It removes your information from websites, so if someone does find your IRL name, they won't be able to connect it to your address, phone number, and even your family members. Additionally, this can also give you less robocalls since companies aren't able to find your internet just like on the they're not able to just find it like it's some public message board. So if you guys want to help support the channel and get one of my favorite products, click the link in the description down below. But guys, first of all, you might be saying there's probably some on YouTube already. Well, let's go ahead and look at the #1 ranked search result for password manager tier list. It's by this channel called Cyber News, and I'm not too sure about this tier list. Bitwarden, B tier, no mention of Proton Pass, no mention of KeePass. These ones in A tier? I don't know about that. So in this video, we're gonna make an objective, non-sponsored, non-affiliated password manager tier list. But if you guys do like this objective, non-biased content, and you want to help support the channel, check out Incogni. It's one of my favorite products on the here on the channel, and products like this that are great matches for an affiliation and also give you guys more privacy are what keeps this channel alive. Also, make sure to check up to date with the VPNtierlist.com. Use an A tier VPN. Check out this now check out why I like Incogni. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and start making my tier list now, since I think it will be better than the aforementioned one. Alright guys, so here is my, I've picked kind of like the biggest ones. I didn't really put stuff in like RoboForm, some of those ones, Dash Pass, some of those ones. People just don't really talk about those anymore and don't really use them. So unfortunately, I didn't really pick some of those lesser used ones. Unlike that other tier list though, I did pick some of the biggest names out there. So I think that will kind of illustrate kind of the point of this video, that we want to really rate them fairly. Now I also didn't include some of the other ones out there. For example, stuff like iCloud and Google password managers and stuff like that. This is more of a privacy-based kind of list of exclusive kind of privacy-based password managers. If you're looking to use something like that, you kind of have to go with one of those ones if you want. They're not really privacy necessarily focused. Something like Google especially is definitely not going to be privacy focused. Something like Apple is debatably so. It kind of is up in the air, if Apple really does care about privacy or not. It's definitely not going to be open source though. So if that's something you're looking for when it comes to a password manager, and if you don't want to be locked in the Apple ecosystem, these are probably the ones to be used. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and rate NordPass. Now NordPass is one of those password managers that is actually a pretty compelling offer when you considered it bundled in with the NordVPN ecosystem. You are going to be paying extra for that premium kind of fee for NordPass. It is free to use though, that said, but if you kind of bundle it in, you are going to kind of be paying for that premium kind of access to it. Or you could just use it free. It's up to you, I guess. That said, NordPass is not open source, so I think it could improve there. But overall, I think it does actually have one of the best user experiences when it comes to these password managers. NordVPN is very, very good at user experience, and it shows with that one. So if you're someone who wants something that's in the privacy ecosystem when it comes to password managers, but you don't really care about it being open source, maybe you value user experience more over it being open source, NordPass is a pretty good one to use. That said, it's not really the most privacy kind of focused password manager in terms of, like I said, those spec kind of things, like being open source. So I'm not going to give it S tier for that reason alone, but I do think it is still a pretty good password manager for what it is, and kind of being a side product of NordVPN. Especially if you want to get into that ecosystem, it can be a good option to check out. It's definitely better than I thought it was. Next up, we could talk about something like Bitwarden. Now, Bitwarden really kind of paved the way when it comes to password managers, being transparent, privacy friendly, and kind of locking every inch of it down. I really do think it was a pioneer in that. It also kind of paved their way for more affordable kind of free models to use password managers. Before Bitwarden, password managers were more expensive. They didn't really offer very compelling free versions hardly. And Bitwarden really came out and kind of made a lot of password managers useless. Since then, they've also included other options like Bitwarden kind of authentication, 2FA codes, which is cool. They've also improved the interface too, and it just overall works really well. The company behind it is pretty cool as well. They've not really been involved in any controversies. I would say the interface and usability is not quite as good as something like NordPass. That said, it is open source, it's free to use, and there really isn't any other cons with it. I'm going to give Bitwarden S tier just because it's really highly respected in the privacy community, and really there isn't too many cons with it. This is still the one I really like to use nowadays, and it really hasn't really gotten worse. It's also kind of stayed kind of similar. It's had some improvements overall with some minor UI things, but it's just consistent, stable, and a very, very good password manager. And like I said, I think it does get credit for paving the way for that affordable free model, and also how good it really is on kind of like the privacy side of things. Next up, we can talk about Proton Pass, and this is something that other tier lists didn't really even mention. Proton Pass, like Bitwarden, is also open source. And I think it kind of strikes a good blend of, what makes NordPass good and what makes Bitwarden good. I saw Proton complaining how Google might be kind of punishing Proton and not promoting it in Google search results compared to some other options like something like NordPass or maybe even Google Password Manager. That said, Proton Pass is still kind of growing. It's still a smaller password manager. Proton, the team, really kind of has built out a decent ecosystem of different kind of apps. You have Proton Pass, Proton VPN. It's got some really cool features too that I think really make it compelling when compared to some other options out there. If you're in the Proton ecosystem, it's definitely worth checking out. It's also free to use. It's definitely a very, very solid option. Next up, we could talk about LastPass. Now, this one is probably going to go into D tier. It's just had so many crazy security vulnerabilities and leaks and breaches over the years that it really isn't even worth talking about too much in detail. The premium model and stuff like that and freemium also got switched around quite a bit, made it more expensive and less generous, and it was really one of the first ones out there to kind of start doing password managers, and it got probably the biggest, but its reputation has kind of gone down the drain over the years severely, and you don't really see it talked about anymore at all in terms of being respected. Now let's go ahead and talk about something like 1Password. 1Password is one of those password managers that's kind of interesting to me. I never really used it or really liked it that much. It does have some kind of cool usability features, but it's always kind of primarily been advertised and more used by Mac users and iOS. It's kind of similar to NordPass in that extent. It's not open source. Unlike LastPass, though, it doesn't have any history of security vulnerabilities or breaches or anything like that. So it's a decent password manager for what it is, but I don't think it's something that really appeals to people who might be interested in something Bitwarden or even Proton Pass. Last up, we have something called KeePass. Now, KeePass is kind of like a legacy password manager that people still do use today. If you're really not interested in keeping things secure on the cloud with like something like Proton or Bitwarden, this thing is going to be local on your computer, which can mean that if you don't set up backups and things like that in the cloud, if your computer dies, well, goodbye. So that's something to think about. It's definitely for power users. The UI is pretty atrocious. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'll show it to you here, and you can kind of make your own kind of let's just make sure it's like recent. I don't want to show you anything that's out of date. So let's just do past year, and then we'll kind of look at it. So yeah, this is kind of what it still looks like to date, I do believe. I mean, you could kind of even see the logo looks pretty scuffed. But generally, this is kind of what KeePass looks like. It looks kind of like Windows XP. But at the end of the day, if you want kind of the ultimate self-hosted kind of on your device kind of experience, this is probably what you're going to be using. And honestly, if you're watching this video and that's what you like, you're probably already using KeePass if you really don't like some of these other ones. That said, for me specifically, I find it a little risky depending on if anything happens on your end. You are trusting yourself more than something like Bitwarden and ProtonPass, which are very highly respected. But I also just don't love the GUI. I don't like the extra clunkiness of navigating between devices when using things like this and setting up cloud and everything like that on your own. So it's definitely a little bit more of a pain in the ass that way. And like I said, its GUI and stuff like that is definitely sore on the eyes. But at the end of the day, it is secure, it's open source, it's solid. So I'm going to probably give it something like B tier, just because some of those pros and cons aspects. Is it the best in terms of self-hosted privacy and stuff like that? Yeah. But is it the best in terms of convenience, usability, everything like that? Probably not. So there you go. Hope that makes sense for you guys. Anyways, guys, this is my final rankings for password managers right now at the end of 2024. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you thought this was an objective, good password manager tier list. Let me know if you'd like to see more in the future, any other tier list when it comes to anything else. And I'll see you again very soon.